Hey there, my wedding planning friends, and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, thanks so much for clicking on my video. I'm Emily Summer. I'm a wedding planner based in Montana, and I make weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. So most of my videos are about wedding planning. I haven't really done a whole lot about planning things that lead up to the wedding or extra additional wedding related events such as a bridal shower. And so today I thought it would be fun to chat with a good friend of mine, Dani Walker, who is also a YouTuber, who is planning her cousin's bridal shower and had a lot of questions on the planning process, what that looks like, and I thought it could be helpful for any of you that are in the process of planning your own bridal shower, or maybe you're a maid of honor or bridesmaid that is in charge of planning a bridal shower for your friend. So we do a little Q&A and hopefully we'll answer some questions that you have. So without further ado,
Hi, my name is Dani, and I'm so fortunate that Emily is one of my best friends and knows so much about wedding planning and all things wedding and bridal. And so we thought that this would be a good idea to really share the entire planning process from the beginning of what it's going to take to plan a bridal shower, because I've never done it and Emily's done this a lot. So she's really helping me out by answering all of the questions that I have today.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you had asked me the other day about bridal shower stuff in Montana, I'm sure in bigger cities, I know of planners that like specialize in showers and birthday parties and bachelorettes and all of that. Me being based in Montana, that's not really something people hire out to like plan a bridal shower with a wedding planner, or just really essentially want to pay for, which I get. But I've had so many of my friends, because people are like, oh, you're a wedding planner, we might as well use your knowledge. So I've planned about, I don't know, 5 or 6 bridal showers, not for clients, but just in general. And so I feel like hopefully I can answer your questions.
I hope so too. Okay, so for those ones, how much time did you take to plan the event?
So it really varies, and it also depends on like the bride too, and how, like, what their overall wedding timeline is. And so standard time frames for like time of engagement to wedding date is like 9 to 12 months. That's kind of the standard. What's that
Okay,
face? Is
so
that
my
longer or
cousin's getting
shorter than you
married in
expect?
4 months.
Okay, but they changed their date, right?
It's in, oh yeah, but it's in 4 months from now.
From now, yes, but not from the time they got engaged.
Yes,
Yes.
correct.
So as far as like the bridal shower part, usually that happens like 3 or 4 months before the wedding. Some people will do it like the month before. And really it's just, yeah, you're fine. I mean, it really, there's no like standard timeline for when to have it. It's just usually leading up to the wedding. There's like all these things to kind of help build the momentum and like the excitement for the wedding. So usually bridal showers first, and then bachelorette party, and then a couple, if like, so I know some people that do a couple bachelorette parties, or like they'll do like a bridal luncheon, which is separate from the bridal shower, and the bachelorette party is more of like a tame bachelorette party, I guess you could say, where if you don't want to like go out traditionally, bachelor, we think of like bachelorette as like party night, you're going out, you know, being a little wild. And so some people aren't into that, and the luncheon side is kind of like an alternative to a wild, crazy bachelorette.
Okay, that's cute. Okay, that's something to think about. So how do you budget for this? How will I budget for this?
Yeah, that's the hard part. So I would say normally, you know, the maid of honor is essentially in charge of the planning, which you are. And with that comes the financial responsibility as well. Usually, if there is a full bridal party or like a full, you know, bridesmaids, which did you say it's just one other in you?
There's just one other, yes. And it's a guy, and he is all about helping. We actually have a call tomorrow, which is perfect timing. So I'm going to share this information with him.
Yeah. And so in my experience, while the maid of honor is like essentially in charge of planning it, usually the other bridesmaids or bridesmen or whoever is involved will kind of help contribute as well. And so maybe you are kind of taking the reins and planning most of the actual like activities and the guest lists, and maybe spending a little bit more money than some of the others. But usually it's like a joint effort. I don't feel like the maid of honor should have to pay for everything. And sometimes even the couple will kind of set aside part of their budget to like contribute for maybe like a food contribution or something like that, just a little piece of their showers or their engagement party or bachelorette, whatever. But it really just depends on the couple and what their overall like wedding budget is. I saw something actually recently, which I really like. And if people have like a co-maid of honors, which I've heard of and seen, and I've had clients that have that, but in my head, it was always like, you just can't choose between two, right? And you want to just have two maid of honors. Maybe you have a sister and a best friend and you want both of them to be your maid of honor. I saw this video where they had two maid of honors. One planned and was responsible for the bridal shower, and the other one planned and was responsible for the bachelorette. So that way it kind of like split it up. You weren't super overwhelmed with both. And then like one person, had the financial responsibility for one and the other for the other. So it was a little bit more.
I love that.
Oh I do too. I'm like, I'm doing that. That's sold.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay. I like that.
Smart. Yeah.
So what about invitations? Because I've been trying to Google, I have been on Pinterest, okay, and obviously feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
But that's something that a lot of people mentioned. And with the time frame, I don't really know if it's possible to do ones where you mail them. Mm-hmm. I was thinking more e-invites. Is that okay? What's the standard for invitations? And even how much time do you give people to let them know this is when the bridal shower is?
Yeah. So let's talk invitations first. So obviously more cost effective and like budget friendly is going to be like a digital invite, an emailed invite, or however that is. Because when you have printed, obviously you're paying for the printing, you're paying for the paper, and then also postage, which is something that adds up very quickly, depending on how many people are involved. Time frame wise, like you said, you're 4 months out, you have plenty of time to do the mailed. Usually I would say like, if it's local, that's a big thing too. If it's local, if the people that are invited are local, and by local, I mean like within an hour of the location. So if the majority of your guest list isn't traveling across state lines, having to hop on a plane, anything like that, you don't have to give any more than like 2 or 3 months notice for the initial invitation. And then you're going to want to put an RSVP deadline on there so that you can plan for how many people are going to be there for, drinks, food. If you're doing like favors, planning any activities, anything like that, you want to make sure that you're knowing how many people are going to be in attendance. And usually like a month, 3 to 4 weeks is usually pretty good for an RSVP date before the actual event date.
It sounds like I already need a date for people and need to be sending things out then. If the wedding's in 4 months and I'm not going to have the bridal shower the day before.
Yeah. So I would say, okay, the wedding is what, April 24th, mm-hmm. right?
Or 23rd, whatever the Saturday is.
So I think and you're in California, so I feel like in Montana, people are always doing showers in the spring and summer just because that's when we have the nicest weather. And so for you, it doesn't really matter that much. I mean, you can do it in February, you can do it in March, you can do it, I would say probably like beginning of March would be a good kind of estimated time frame because it's close to the wedding, but it's still, over a month and a half, almost 2 months from the wedding date. And so it's not like you're boom, 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 going and doing all these things right to the end. And that still gives you a decent little window of time to prepare for and let people have a heads up of the date and everything. But yeah, okay. Soon.
Okay. I'm on it. So what
Get your guest list.
Yes, I've obviously been looking on Pinterest, which you can just go down a rabbit hole in, but it's so fun. It's so fun to look and get inspiration. And I've been thinking a lot about decorations and themes possibly. I've seen that there are different types of bridal showers. Mm-hmm. So what kind of goes into that, or are there any places to get better inspiration than Pinterest for it? What are your thoughts on decoration and themes?
Yeah. Okay. I have a love-hate relationship with Pinterest, but the love side comes more into play with stuff like this than with weddings, because you can get, like you said, really good inspiration. People are really creative out there. And sometimes I am not, even though people expect me to be. And so it's nice to like even just see what other people have done and maybe even build off of that, or gives you another idea for something similar that allows you to be creative. Pinterest is a great place to start when it comes to coming up with like a theme or a style or whatever. I do find that having some sort of theme, it doesn't have to be like super hokey or, very theme like, but having some sort of overall theme, general direction for showers is very helpful, because then it just makes things a lot more streamlined and easy for you, because the decisions are more narrow. You have a little bit less options, rather than, because options are endless. Like what kind of food do you have? What kind of variety of food? What kind of drinks? What kind of games? All that kind of stuff becomes a little bit easier when you have this umbrella that you're kind of keeping everything within. Instagram's also a great place. You can search by hashtag on bridal showers. Like if you even just type in, hashtag bridal shower, it'll give you obviously like the populated continuations of that hashtag. And there's probably specific themes right there that you can click on and then just see a bunch of pictures that people have done within that theme, or maybe a specific location, or maybe even if you're renting out a space, which I'm not sure if you are, but this is just a general tip. If you're renting out a space that rents out like a private room or whatever specifically for this kind of a thing, you can look at that event space and like go to their Instagram, and probably they have examples of things that they've done as far as decorations and setup and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of helpful to see what people have done previously in the exact space that you're going to be in, and kind of get ideas that way too.
Okay, that's super cute. I didn't even think about Instagram, but that's a great idea, because I've just been looking at things and a lot of them are similar. I definitely am trying to do something a little bit more just personalized for her. So I haven't thought of that yet, but I'm still in that phase of just searching. So I'll check Instagram too. Now, what about food and drink ideas, budgets? What are your thoughts on that?
I always say when it comes to food, keep it easy. It doesn't have to be a meal, doesn't have to be like an entree. Finger foods, things that are bite-sized. Typically at a shower, there's a lot of mingling happening. People aren't really like sitting down and having a formal meal. And so something that's easy to eat without even like potentially having a place to sit, like don't have anything you have to cut, be able to use both hands, things that are easy to eat and stand and walk around and talk to other people. So, like little mini sandwiches I've seen a lot of. Seems to be a little bit more kind of like sweets and dessert heavy, a little bit more at bridal showers. You also have kind of the time of day that might help distinguish food. So if you're having like a morning shower, you can make everything more breakfast themed, have like pastries, maybe do mimosa bar, that kind of thing. And you're going to have it all kind of breakfast related. If you're going to have a later afternoon shower, then you're probably going to have things more like the sandwiches and little bite-sized. I've seen like little mini tacos, which was cute, can be kind of messy, but you can get a little bit more creative and more, like lunchy if you're having it later in the day.
Okay, super cute. I like that. I never would have thought of tacos, but I'm a fan.
Like little mini ones. Yeah.
That would be cute. What about games? I've seen that people play games. How many games should you prepare? I mean, I didn't even think about what's the duration of a normal bridal shower. How long do we tell people to expect to be there? And then what amount of time should I allot for games, or how many games?
Okay, so this is something that you want to be asking the bride. There's like 3 questions you should ask that kind of all tie into this, because it really depends on the person. I know plenty of brides that are like, do not coordinate a single game at my bridal shower because they hate them. So that's a question to ask. Like, ask your bride that you're planning for, do you want to have games at your shower? And maybe they have been to a shower before and there was a specific game that they loved that they want to recreate, or maybe there's something that they hated and they have nothing against games, but they don't want this one specific thing to happen. So that's just a good question to ask in the planning process before you start actually like planning the actual shower. The other thing is ask if they want to be opening their gifts in front of everybody, if that's something they want to have at the shower, because that will be a huge factor in the timing of the day, because that, depending on how many guests are there, can take like an hour in and of itself just doing gifts. And I would say at most showers I have done or been to, that is a part of it where, everyone sits in a circle and you watch the bride open her gifts and thanks whoever it's from. And you are going to be the person that's writing down what everybody gets so that she can send thank yous afterwards. And so that's something some people are really uncomfortable with, opening gifts in front of people, and some don't care. So that's another question to ask, if that's what she would want included. If you don't do that, then that's going to free up a lot more time for, games, interaction, whatever else you're going to do. Typically, like 2 hours is a pretty standard bridal shower duration, from the time the first person arrives to the time the last person leaves. Just usually the first like 20-30 minutes is kind of mingling, everyone's showing up, and no one's going to get there at the same time right on the start time, how that goes. And then usually, like, if you have food there and drinks, people are going to be eating for a little while. And then you go into probably games first, if you're doing games, and then gifts at the end. That way, if people do have to leave early, they're just leaving during the opening of the gifts, and it doesn't feel rude or weird or whatever. Kind of saving that for the end.
Good to know, because I didn't even think about that. Arrivals, food, gifts, or games, and then gifts. Okay, I'm taking notes on all of this.
Good.
Now, what about, I've seen some people give out party favors. I remember when people used to do that all the time at weddings, and I feel like that trend has kind of gone away, but I didn't know if that's still happening at bridal showers. And if it is, what are some ideas for party favors that you can give out?
Yeah, so you're right. Favors have kind of started to fade away a little bit, especially at weddings. I always say, if people do want to do favors, I always say do something that's like consumable, because then it's not going to go to waste. Everybody loves something they can eat or drink, or if it's customary to like the theme at weddings a lot, since we're in Montana and huckleberries are like a big part of Montana life. And many of my couples are either coming from out of town, or their whole guests are coming from out of state. And so providing like some sort of little Montana huckleberry treat of some kind, or honey or jam or whatever it is, they're going to enjoy it. It's not going to go to waste. It's not something that they have to pack home and find a place to put it or get tossed out. I had a shower this last summer, and it was like all taco themed, and it was like, let's talk about a baby was like the theme, the headline. And so it was really cute. And so they had all these very intricately designed cookies that were all like cactus and, just very like taco themed cookies. Mm-hmm. And so while they were out on display, like for everyone to eat during the shower, there was also like wrapped ones that people could take home with them. And so I would consider that a favor, even though it wasn't technically a favor. Mm-hmm. Another good thing too is, if you're not going to do like an actual favor for every single person, having like a little gift set for the games. If you do a couple of games and you have somebody that's going to be the winner, having a couple little prizes to give away for that is a good route to go to. Mm-hmm.
Okay, prizes for games. I would have forgot that. There's so much that goes into it. Now, what about, so for example, it's going to be myself and then her bride's man that it's going to be, he said he'll be a part of helping to plan this. And obviously I've seen that we need to give her a gift as well. Some people have said you can do a co-gift. Some people say that the gift should be themed according to the bridal shower. What are your thoughts on gifts for the bride from the bridal party?
So pretty like traditionally, standardly, do they have a gift registry set up?
Nope.
Had a feeling. Okay. Usually if they have a gift registry, the bridal shower is an opportunity to buy more stuff off the registry. And it's typically like more of the homeware kind of items. And that's something that's kind of just like this unspoken rule. I don't know that there's necessarily any guideline necessarily that's like, oh, this is what you get the bride at her bridal shower, but that's just kind of traditionally how it's been over the last, 20-30 years, where typically if they have a registry, you're just getting items that are related to the home, towels, kitchen, whatever. And that's, now that I'm like saying that out loud, why does that feel so sexist? Like, here's the bride's party, here's all your kitchen stuff.
Well, no, but for example, so for my cousin that's getting married, just to put a perspective for everybody else, both of them don't have their own place. They're living at home. So neither of them has any housewares. And I know traditionally we think women in housewares, but they both equally are going to need a microwave and a blender and all those things that they don't have right now. So I'm curious. I hope that they're really smart with the registry.
Yeah. So you should get on her about that. Cause I mean, that's why registries were created, because that's how,
Traditionally.
traditionally it's been, is that you're living in separate places, and the
Yep.
marriage is when you are becoming a union and you're creating this home together. So usually you wouldn't have those kinds of things. And
That's where they're coming from. So they're
yeah,
not
yeah.
anything.
And so,
That's why I have secondhand stress.
yeah. Okay. Well, tell her to get a registry.
Give me a
If not,
registry.
that's something that you can put. So make sure that you put that on the invitations too. If she has the registration by then,
Oh, okay.
put the link on the invitations to her registry. If she doesn't, then I would maybe just advise, like, come up with maybe a theme, like, because you're going to know her pretty well and what they are in need of, because you know are pretty involved in her life, and like you just said, kind of what they need. Maybe come up with a list yourself, or just give like an umbrella of things that they need, maybe like one specific category, and put that on the invitation and say, for gifts, please provide something, some kind of category or whatever, if she hasn't done the whole registry part. Because then, like, I don't know what else you would get a bride at the bridal shower that isn't related to, if they don't have a registry. That's when you can gets a little dangerous, as far as like things that they don't need, things that they don't want. Another thing too that is often gifted at a bridal shower is like nice lingerie, or like a white robe, or like bridal undergarments of whatever kind. That's pretty common at showers
Well,
as well.
what about things for the honeymoon, because we know where the location will be?
Yeah, that's a good one too. Mhm.
Okay, so I didn't know if people were doing that. And then obviously I haven't decided anything yet. I don't know if the invitations will be printed or whether they'll be digital, but if they are digital, since the bride and groom don't yet have a wedding website like so
Mhm.
many couples have,
Mhm.
is there a resource that I could use online that would make a nice e-invite that something I can sign up for or send out?
Yeah, so there's Evite is probably one of the biggest online like digital invitation platforms. I did a video on just like strictly digital invitations, and there was two others that now I'm blanking on the name of them, but I'll link that video so people can look at that if they need to. But there's three main ones. Evite is probably like the largest, and there's free options. And so it just basically, you compile an email list, and then do your little digital email, fire it off. And then it's nice because it'll keep track of all your guests too. So you'll have everyone's emails. So if you do need to send them any sort of information or an update, or maybe you send the invite out and then they do a registry after the fact, you can always shoot off an email to that whole group of people and kind of follow up with any information.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this all sounds great. I'm feeling so much better right now because at least I have some guidance, and we talked about some stuff I wouldn't have even considered.
Mhm.
Um, is there anything that I'm missing then, do you think, that I should be taking into consideration?
I think the biggest thing that we haven't talked about is just location in general. So are you planning on doing it at your home, at her home? Are you renting a space? Do you know?
That's such a great question. I was actually going to talk to the groomsman and get his ideas. I know that there may be some family homes that we might be able to
Mhm.
utilize for it. So I have to talk to the bride about, obviously, hey, can we host this at this person's house? And if not, then I definitely have to talk to the groomsman about where are we going to be holding this? Because
Mhm.
I feel like that in itself is going to be a search. And with the time that we have, just getting it booked, hoping that there's availability.
Right. Yeah. Mhm. And there's pros and cons to doing it at like a public space. Pros being the cleanup. Like if you're having it at a restaurant or something that provides food, they're going to be providing all the food and likely all of the dishes and all of that goes with it. And so then you're renting the space, they're providing all of that. And then at the end of the day, you're not having to clean all of that up, which is nice. Where at a private residence, that's all going to fall on you, the setup, tear down, all of that. Which, if you don't have a huge guest list, if there's not a ton of people there, it's not anything super crazy. But that's definitely a big pro of doing it in like a public rentable space. One of the cons though is if you are doing it in a restaurant or a place that supplies food, they're obviously going to require you to use their catering services and their alcohol. And a lot of times they'll have minimums, and sometimes I did a shower once, this was years ago, and they had minimums that we like had a really hard time reaching with the amount of people that we had. and it just added up a lot quicker than had we done it somewhere else. And even if we had like brought food in from this place and just did it at one of our private places, it would have been a lot more cost effective.
Okay, this is good to know.
A couple things to think about.
I have a lot to think about. I have a lot to think about, and I will be speaking to our brides, whatever we call them, grooms. What do you call them?
The groom?
Bridesmen?
Oh,
No,
bridesman. Oh, him. Yeah. Yeah.
I just need to take a deep breath before getting started on all of this. So
you'll be okay.
better get to work. Yeah, I think that's it then, Emily. I feel like you answered so many questions, and now I have something to go off of. And I have your number. I may text you a couple times.
Yeah, you know where to find me. Well, Dani, thank you so much for doing this little video with me. It's so fun to be able to like actually talk to somebody and do video on it, because I'm so used to talking to myself into a camera, and to kind of, you know, get real questions from people that are actually planning the things that I'm talking about. So we'll have to do this again in the future down the road, maybe when it's your own wedding.
One day.
Yes. Well, hopefully that answered some of your questions, and other people watching, if there was things that we didn't talk about, or if people have additional questions, just let me know in the comments below and I'll try to answer them that way. But hopefully you guys found this video helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe to get weekly videos on wedding planning tips and advice. We'll see you next week.